Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome, everybody. This is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. My name is Darrell Scott. My guest today, he's a producer, he's a drummer, he's a pianist, he's a bassist, he's a visionary. I want to touch on the visionary, but the first thing I want to talk about is his name. His first name is Skinny. Well, he's called Skinny Hightower. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Skinny Hightower to the show. Skinny, how are you today?
Hey, excellent, Darrell. I appreciate you having me. This is an honor for sure.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciated. How did we get the name Skinny? That has been the question I've gotten from my friends who are like, why do they call him Skinny? And I go, I'll find out. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So at one point, I was in the military out in Fort Stewart, Georgia, and I was starting to get serious about doing jazz as like a career, or at least doing it on the side while I was still in the military. Um, and by that point, I'd already played instruments and stuff, so I had an idea of what to do. Started making music, and then when my some of my coworkers found out, one of the chief warrant officers, Chief Warrant Officer Ramsey, he said, "You remind me of the skinny Mr. Hightower." Now I don't know if you used to watch the Steve Harvey
The
show.
Harvey Show. Yes.
Yeah, and he was the jazz teacher in the school, Mr. Hightower. And
Right.
back then I was skinny, like 150 pounds soaking wet,
Wow.
while I was in the military. Um, and yeah, he said, remind me of the skinny Mr. Hightower, and it just stuck. And I was like, man, I'm going to use that, Skinny Hightower, and it just stuck ever since.
It is, it will get you name recognition and you will not be forgotten. And then I go back to,
Yeah.
so right as you get into the military, but you started out at a young age, what,
hmm
playing piano, playing the drums. Uh, what, first of all, there's a third instrument, which I cannot remember now.
Bass. Yeah.
Bass. So you basically started out learning how to be a rhythm section all
Right.
on your own. Was that on purpose, or did you just do that because those were the instruments in the house?
Well, I think I didn't even have a choice. So I started out. I started out on drums, and really the only memory that I have is seeing a picture when I was a little baby, or about 2 years old, maybe a little younger than that, on my dad's lap with drumsticks in my hand while he was on the drum set. Um, and I do distinctly remember I used to bang around on stuff, but I think I started drumming, at that age, because I don't remember not knowing how to play drums. That's really my main instrument. People see me as a pianist, but I'm actually a drummer, um, at heart. So started out on that, and I was just around music. My dad played drums. My mom was a classical pianist. My uncles played bass and guitar. So I took a mild interest, in the piano, at 8 years old, somewhere around there. But I never, like, she used to teach. My mom used to teach me and my sister piano lessons, and I just didn't care about it. I was like, I mean, this is stupid. I don't like piano. My sister was actually better than me at the time,
Hmm.
but um, so I kind of did that for a while, and eventually that faded away, and I started getting interested in bass. So bass is actually my second instrument because I took that one really serious, um, and been playing that one ever since. But piano, I didn't really get serious about that until maybe around the time I was in the military. So about 2017, 2016, around that time, which is interesting because I did an album that year. So I always saw myself as a producer and not a pianist. Still to this day, I'm more a producer than anything else.
I always have this question about producers. This changes my whole question repertoire. You take
Hmm.
someone else's feeling, someone else's music, someone else's idea.
Hmm.
How do you then, because you are a kind of a hands-off kind of guy from the stuff I've read, how do you not like dive into it and kind of make it your own music, but still somehow making it that person that you're working with?
That's an interesting question. 'Cause it's crazy because generally when I work on my projects, I work on every aspect of it. If I'm doing somebody else's project, that might be the case, but I'm more of a conduit than anything else. So my first responsibility is to understand that other person as an artist. So like I recently did a single for Jay White, um, or I'll and it's been a handful of others. I did a single for Claudia Hayden, and probably right now most notably the single Red Lights with Alice Parchment. Um, so for example, when I did that project, it's a deep dive into him as an artist, him as a person, and I just listen and absorb, okay, what are their tendencies? What do they like to play? What are they, when they improv, what are they doing? What are they trying to say? I'm listening for all of that stuff. And my job is to just translate what they do, and try to bring it out of myself with as little filters as possible, because I don't want their idea to get, you know, convoluted or, diluted by what I'm wanting to present. It needs to be their idea, and I'm just, pushing it out through the means that I have. That's it. So just to answer your question, I try to stay out of the way as much as possible while also incorporating both of our voices, their voice, in combination with mine.
So do you spend a lot of time prior to music speaking to them, finding out where they're coming from, and just having conversations to make that transition or that flow easier?
Sometimes it depends on what. Like if it's a singer, I feel like I have to. It's just a little different when you work with singers as opposed to instrumentalists, from what I've seen and experienced. So with singers for sure. Instrumentalists, I can and more than likely I will talk with them. There have been times where they say, "Hey, man, I've been looking for somebody. I want you to do this song the way you do it." In those cases, I'll listen to what they do, and I'll try to compliment them as much as I can musically, with using the tools that I have. But if we're collaborating on something, and it's my job to facilitate for them, then more than likely I'm going to have some conversations with them just to get to know them, their tendencies and what they really want out of it, and why they do it. I think the reason why you do something, oftentimes can influence greatly what comes out.
That I find you producers amazing because it's not, I don't want to say it's not you, but it's you taking somebody else's characteristics, music, and making it a piece of what you do, and you bringing out the best in them,
Hmm.
which sometimes can be very tough, and because you have to
Yeah,
work with their ego and their,
right.
yeah, I give that all to you. Excuse me,
Well,
somebody.
and you say that, and I mean that makes 100% sense. Like I think of Quincy Jones, when
Yeah,
he and Michael Jackson did Thriller. They clashed a lot. Different personalities. They're both perfectionists, um, but they had the same goals. And a lot of times, if you have differences, if you, as long as you have the same goal, at some point, if you keep working through it, then eventually you'll get in unison in some kind of way, and you'll push forward and make the best possible song, the best possible project. And it was kind of like that with Alex Parchman and I at first, because we were trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? Are we both going to produce? Or are you going to produce a song? And at first, it just wasn't clicking. And he said, okay, I think this is how we should do it. Why don't you produce the songs, and then I'll write to the songs? When he said that, everything clicked, and we had the project done. It's one of my favorite projects. Seriously, I love that project, and it uh, coincidentally, the timing and all that. We just found out that Red Lights went number one on
Excellent.
Media Base, and tied for number two on Billboard. Or sorry, tied for number one on Billboard.
Nice. Is it now that we have so many different charts, we'll say Billboard, this one, Media Base, you've got
Yeah,
European charts, you got. Is
right.
there a great deal of gratification when you make number one? Does one chart hold more prestige than the other, or is it just the best? I want to be number one, and I'll take it wherever it goes.
Um, that's actually a good question. I guess it depends on the person.
Hmm.
Um, for me, I don't. I try not to get caught up in the number game too much. Now, when it does go number one, like okay, to answer your question, that first part of your question, Billboard is the epitome of charts, and it has been for
For
really
years,
long time.
really long time.
Um, Over the years, they've changed how that stuff is tracked. Media base is simply the means by which Billboard is tracked now. It used to be BDS, but now Media Base took over. So Media Base and Billboard basically work hand in hand, um, which is interesting because you can go number one on Media Base, but Billboard might be number two, three, or four
Right.
because Billboard tracks streams, radio airplay, all of that stuff. Media Base is only radio airplay, but it does feel good to know that what you're doing is being accepted by
Yes.
the public. I
Yes.
will say that there is some gratification in that. As an artist, though, you have to be able to detach from that, from a lot of different aspects um, that are result oriented. In order to be, consistent, persistent, you really, and also to be an innovator in this space. I feel like you have to be able to detach and say, okay, that project is done and it's out there. I can't control too much of it. Now let's figure out where do I need to go next? What's next? That's the way I approach it. I don't spend too much time looking back or tracking stuff. Um, but if it goes number one, it's gratifying. But I don't, go searching for it, if that
Good.
makes sense.
All right. Let's listen to some music that you have done. Let's listen to a song called Devotion,
Hmm.
which is not the Earth, Wind, and Fire devotion, correct?
No, actually, it's actually an original.
Okay.
Um, I just called it devotion because I feel like if you're gonna do anything, it's got to have devotion. Um, if you're gonna do anything of substance, I believe. But yeah, this is an original, and earlier before we were on, you mentioned Althea Renee. She actually played flute on this song.
Oh, all right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Devotion on the Jazz Flight Podcast with our guest, Skinny Hightower. That is Devotion from our guest today, Skinny Hightower, on the Jazz Flight Podcast. I'm Darrell Scott. Skinny, I am willing to bet that when you do your music, when you put
Mhm.
titles out there, there's a meaning. There's not. It's just not a title. I needed a title, so we'll just throw this one on. Every song you
Yeah.
have has a meaning for you. Is there a
Mhm.
meaning with devotion?
Yeah. For me, and this is also like, I guess, the lifeblood of my philosophy. Um, if you're going to do anything of note or of value or of substance, you have to have devotion. It's not possible to achieve that level of solidification without devotion. True devotion is going to get you through the ups, the downs, and everything else in between. So that's the meaning behind that one. It's just, everything we do requires some level of devotion.
It is funny in reading about you. There are a lot of different things that I think make up you. One of the
Hmm.
lines is you want to be better than you were the day before.
Yes.
That being said, how do you do that? What is your process of making sure that you are better than yesterday?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's, really asked me this question, which is interesting because this is it's probably the most important aspect um, of me in general.
Mhm.
So just speaking musically, um, I embody, a militant, kind of mindset. I wake up really early, and from that moment on, it's about, okay, what can I do to put myself in the best possible situation to create the best music possible. I don't care if I record today or a year from now. What can I do right now to make myself the best possible at what I do? Um, and for me, it's making sure I'm sharp mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. And then I'm practicing every instrument every day. I don't skip a day ever. Seven days a week. Um, it's study. I don't just listen to music. I think it was Rick Rubin, one of the great producers. He said we need to get used to ingesting great art, um, and especially as artists, because we have a tendency to portray and use what we bring in. So if we listen to something or we watch something, we're inspired by it. Um, but if you make sure that all the things you ingest are great, it retunes your thinking. It's like, okay, now I understand um, how they produce greatness. What can I do to emulate that or to take it to the next level? So I'm listening to, some of the best music I can possibly listen to, studying it. Um, I'll transcribe it. I'll look up the musicians. I'll see who played on it, why they chose that musician, where they got them from, where'd you record it, how long did it take. Um, I'm looking at everything, and just so I can get the backstory on what I'm hearing. Once you get that backstory, you understand. Okay, now I know why they made that choice. I'll keep that in mind when I do something, not in a similar fashion, but use that as inspiration. Um, so it's just a culmination of all those things is what I'm doing to try to get better every day. Um,
Is it not? Is that not tough to do to maintain that level of consistency, that level of discipline? That's got to be have a lot of wear and tear on you. So I guess the other part of the question is, how do you maintain?
Yeah, and that's a good question too. So it definitely requires balance. It's very hard to maintain that. I try to think of it like I don't know if you watch athletes train or like studied their training regimens at all. Like you look at Kobe Bryant, he had what was called the 666 method, 6 months out of the year, 6 days a week, 6 hours a day. I don't subscribe to that, rigidly. That's not, but it kind of gives you an idea of how to maintain it. So it's like, okay, it's not constant. He's not doing it every day. Or like a fighter, when they go to training camp, it's weeks out before the fight. Um, so for me, I do it in blocks. Now, my blocks are pretty long. They're usually about 2 or 3. about 2 years of intense training, listening, and then usually about a year of not a year, up to a year of recording, um, and then I'll take breaks in between. But it's the breaks in between that allow me to sustain it. Um, so I'll, do maybe 6 weeks at a time, nonstop, just go, and then maybe take a week off, and then I'll get back on it another 6 weeks, take a week off, something like that. It's just I don't try to do it, constantly. That will, and I've learned the hard way that it will break you down at some point.
So with that being said, there are people out there who are listening who want to subscribe to what you do. What do you
Mhm.
do to relax?
Spend time with family. I love going to the movies. Love it. Just cookouts. Anything I can do to get away from it completely. Like I have to detach, because if I don't, then my mind will still be running. Like, okay, well, what if I can do this to help the music or make myself better? Like I'll just keep finding ways to keep working. So I just have to get away completely, whether it's a vacation or just, if we're gonna stay here, just doing things outside of the house or in the house with family. Um, anything that gets me away from the music for a little bit.
So it brings me to two questions. What's the
Mhm.
best movie you've seen in the last year?
Mm. Oh, that's a good one. Best move, and you said in the last year.
Last year, or whatever your favorite movie is to decompress.
That's a tough one. I'm a big fan of the Avengers. I've seen so many different movies, especially the stuff that's out in theaters right now. But I mean, I always go back to the Avengers. Like I just love it. But man, I don't. That's a tough one. It's hard to say a favorite. I mean, favorite all time movie is Major Payne for sure,
Really?
hands down. Yeah, that's yeah. I could quote that whole movie, but yeah, that's probably my favorite all time.
Okay.
But yeah,
Let's listen to something else, some other work that you've done. Let's listen to Hypnotic on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our special guest, Skinny Hightower. Welcome back to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm Darrell Scott. Our guest today is Skinny Hightower. We just heard Hypnotic. You are you got a lot of things going on. I'll start with that. But there's this other thing that you do. You ever, is it a record company? Is it yours?
it's actually a production house.
Okay.
So I'll basically just use it to house, projects that I'm working on collaboratively with other artists. Some of my solo stuff, but I'm still under contract with Castover Records, which is a subsidiary of Trippin' Rhythm, which is
Okay.
who Althea Renee is signed to.
Right.
But yeah, it's working in tandem with that. So it's not really a competitive label per se. I don't sign the artist. We work together, have an agreement to, do a project together or a song together, and it's just my job to, make it happen for
So it's called Edify Sound Enterprises.
them.
I thought the name Edify was interesting. Why
Yeah.
choose Edify?
Well, I feel that if I had to sum up um, the purpose of what I'm doing with it, that would probably be the one word that would describe it. I'm really trying to just uplift, um, improve, help these artists musically in the best way possible. And that's why I chose that name.
Mhm. As I sit here looking at the it struck me so much that I had to find out what the definition of edify was, which means to instruct, uplift, or improve someone intellectually or morally. And you are
hmm
definitely doing that. So with everything that you're doing, what are you working
hmm
on right now?
So right now, I'm actually working on a project for 2029. Now, that sounds like it's far, far
Yeah, it
out.
does. Yeah.
So I think probably last month I just finished recording 2 albums worth of music for next year, um, all in conjunction with an album that's coming out next month. Um, it goes back and to what I was saying before that I work in like these huge blocks. But yeah, what I'm working on right now is that 2029 project, and I'm also helping other artists with their stuff and producing for them. Um, basically doing what I can to continue to help other people out while I work on my own stuff.
So I'm guessing, totally figurative. So you're sitting in front of a file cabinet. In one of the
hmm
drawers is music. How much music is in there that you will use? And is there ever an occasion, this stuff for 2029, do you ever go back and grab something and go, this struck me, I want to change it now and make a modification? Do you do that often?
Good question. So usually I don't look backwards if I'm working on something new. I do have like external hard drives of music, just full of music that I've done over the years. Um, and at some point that might get used for something. Um, but I'm very much like when I'm working on a project, I want to create something new. I want to do something. I want to push myself and challenge myself as much as possible. So I like to start fresh, clean slate, and let's come up with some songs and see what I can come up with. Push the boundaries as much as possible without looking too far back. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it, I always try to, I don't know why I do, but I try to get
Uh-huh.
into the mind of the musician. And when you say you're working on something in 2026 for 2029, I'm worrying about the gap in between. Well, you say you already have stuff ready. So my thing is, well, if you already have stuff ready, if you're like me, if you're asleep and at
Mhm.
3 o'clock in the morning you wake up because something strikes you
Yeah.
for a song that's for 2027, do you go make a change or do you go, I can't touch that. That one's finished. I am moving on.
Mhm. Good question. So I actually haven't recorded one note for the 2029 album. Like when I work on albums, I spend, okay, so it kind of works in different sections. The first section is preparation. Um, the second, and that's basically preparation for me as an artist, like, okay, practicing, studying. And then the next section is, okay, what do I want it to sound like? And I'm just planning, I'm listening, I'm researching. Um, and then there's a small section of recording that I'll probably do maybe, a year out um, from when I want the album to come out, or between a year and 6 months. So it's a real small window of recording. And then once it's done, then it's the logistics of it. But a lot of that huge, I'd say probably 75% is preparation. And then there's a small portion where I'm actually making the music. So it's very fresh. Now, if I do have an idea that comes out of nowhere, I'll I'll put that down as a rough draft. But I won't do anything serious with it yet, just to have it, just so I don't forget it. And then when it's time to record, I'll go through any of those and I'll basically try them out. Like it'll be tryouts for these songs, and I'll see, okay, which one of these sounds the best, and I'll just work on that one seriously. And it kind of goes through that process.
I want to be a fly on the wall and follow you around for like 6 months just to see the process, the the
Yeah.
goings on with you and see it from from the incubative stages to the end
Hmm.
stages, because I think that's the interesting thing. So we'll wait for your video to come out, and if you need help putting together the video, just call me.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, we can do stuff like that. So now, with all the stuff you got going on, what's your social media presence? How can the Jazz Flight family follow what you're doing, get new releases, so forth and so on?
yeah, for sure. So social media, Skinny Hightower, Instagram, Facebook. Right now, I'm more active on Facebook, but I'm kind of backing off a little bit. But um, for sure, my website, skinnyhightower.com, to see anything new that's going on, and then of course Edify Sound, just to see what artists I'm working with and the projects they have, and some of the news related to them. But yeah, at Skinny Hightower, Instagram and Facebook.
I I enjoy learning about people. Everybody
Mhm.
that I've talked to has a different path.
Yeah,
Same goal, but a different path. So sometimes
right.
finding out the path of which someone has taken to get to that end result is amazing to me, because there's such discipline. There's ideas here, there's ideas there. There are people that
Hmm.
like yourself do things. y- You're planning stuff for 3 years from now, and you just
Yeah.
keep going. But you maintain, you persevere, you,
Hmm.
for the most part, don't let anything get in your way. Skinny Hightower, I have enjoyed this conversation so much. We
Oh,
will stay in
same
touch.
here. Same
We will
here.
stay in touch. When you get their new music coming up, please add Jazz Flight to your list so we can include it on our
Oh,
social
for sure.
media, and
Most
and
definitely.
we will talk about some other things at another time. All right, sir.
Looking
La-
forward to it, Daryl. This has been excellent.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. If you like this conversation, I know this. You like this conversation and you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button at the very end to hear everything we got going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much. I thank you to Skinny Hightower, and thank you for listening to the Jazz Flight Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I hope you enjoy the stories and soulful melodies that groove through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.